We obviously aren't going to draw any conclusions in this video because we aren't even a week into the 2021 NHL season. However, I do still want to talk about some things that we've seen so far and overreact a little bit. And specifically, I want to talk about things that you guys want to hear me talk about. So this morning I posted on the community tab saying, ask me anything about the 2021 NHL season so far. For today's video, I'm just going to go through some of the comments on that post and just talk some hockey. Be sure to let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this throughout the season. Maybe we can turn it into a series or something. Of course, be sure to go follow my social medias like Instagram and Twitter. Links to those, as always, will be down below in the description. And most importantly, if this is your first time on the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And now let's begin. So the first comment of the video comes from SparkyBoy04, who says, do you think the Canes will miss the playoffs due to them looking terrible in both the past two games? I hope not, but it's looking bad. Now, I watched both of Carolina's first two games very closely, obviously because they were playing the Red Wings, and I don't even think Carolina played all that bad, especially in the first game. If it weren't for Thomas Greiss playing amazing, that would have been like 5 or 6-0. And while yes, the Canes did lose 4-2 to Detroit last night, I wouldn't really say they played bad. They definitely didn't play as good as they did in the first game, but I think they still outplayed the Red Wings. If it weren't for Jonathan Bernier having the type of game that he had, Carolina probably wins that. So I certainly wouldn't worry about the Hurricanes just because they dropped a game early in the season to the Red Wings. I still think they're going to comfortably make the playoffs. I predicted them to actually finish first place in the Central Division. I'm going to stick with that prediction. They obviously weren't going to go 56-0. They're going to lose some games here and there. I think they're going to be just fine. Moving along now to the next comment. This one comes from Taryn Loses, who says, will the Ottawa Senators not be last place in the Canadian division? Obviously, heading into the season, everybody, including myself, predicted the Senators to finish 7th place in the Canadian division, and through their first two games of the season, they really don't look all that bad. Their first game of the season was a big upset win over the Maple Leafs, and then last night, second night of a back-to-back, they put up a really good fight against the Leafs and lost by, I think it was 1 goal. Now, I am going to take those two games with a grain of salt because it seems like no matter how bad the Senators are, whenever they play the Leafs, they seem to play their best hockey. So yes, an impressive 2 first games for the Senators, but I am still going to stick with my prediction of having them finishing last place in the North or Canadian division. However, I do think that there is a good chance the Sens are probably going to be better than I expected them to be heading into the season. This next comment comes from Delta. I figured I'd put this one next because it also has to do with the Ottawa Senators. Is Nick Paul, who is averaging a point per game, finally going to have a breakout year? Out of the 6 Ottawa Senators who are averaging a point per game, which ones do you think can keep it up for the entire season? I think it's actually 7 Senators with a point per game now because Colin White played last night and he got an assist and that was his first game. But before I answer that, let's backtrack a little bit and talk about Nick Paul, who I thought played fantastic in the first 2 games of the season against the Maple Leafs, a goal and an assist. And aside from those points, I feel like every time he was on the ice, he was just giving the Maple Leafs a lot of problems. So do I think Nick Paul can have a breakout season? It kind of depends on what you mean by that. I don't necessarily think he's ever going to be a guy who's, up around a point per game. He's not going to keep up this pace for the entire season, but 100% I do think this season will be the best of Nick Paul's NHL career. It's not like we have a lot to compare to though, because aside from last season where he played 56 games, for the most part he had been an American Hockey League player. So now getting to the second part of your question, which members of the Senators that are currently averaging a point per game do I think can keep it up for the entire season? Those players currently are Brady Tkachuk, Nikita Zaitsev, Nick Paul, Thomas Chabot, Drake Batherson, Josh Norris, and Colin White. Definitely don't see Nikita Zaitsev keeping up at that pace, so scratch him off. Like I just said, I don't think Nick Paul will be close to a point a game player. Colin White, can't really see that either. I do think Drake Batherson and Josh Norris are going to have great seasons in Ottawa, but point a game, that's a lot to ask. I don't think they're going to quite be at that level, so scratch them off as well. For me, honestly, Brady Tkachuk and Thomas Chabot are the only players on the Senators that I think could potentially keep up this pace. Continuing on now, this next question comes from the glorious 9712. Do you think the Hawks could get last in the league? Before the season actually started, especially after we got the news that Kirby Dach was going to miss a bunch of time and Jonathan Toews was going to be out indefinitely as well, I did predict the Blackhawks to finish in last place, and through their first 2 games of the season, I really didn't see anything at all to make me question that prediction. Now granted, they were playing the defending champion Tampa Bay Lightning, but still, it was a rough first 2 games for the Hawks with their current goaltending situation and not really having good defense in front of those goaltenders either. And of course, like I said, with Dach and Toews being out, I think the Hawks are in for a very long season. So to answer your question, yes, the Blackhawks could most definitely finish in last place. This next comment comes from Quinn Van Galen, who says, what the heck are the Oilers going to do about their goalie situation with Smith now on the LTIR? This is a very good question. The Oilers goaltending situation is not looking the greatest right now. You got Mikko Koskinen and Stuart Skinner. Do you guys even know who that is? Probably not. And like I said multiple times heading into this season, I think having two good goaltenders is going to be more important than it has ever been. Now, something interesting worth noting that happened today, the Toronto Maple Leafs actually placed goaltender Aaron Dell on waivers. I would be extremely surprised if Edmonton doesn't claim him. Looking at how Aaron Dell played last season in San Jose, the type of numbers that he put up, I think he can definitely be at least a serviceable backup to Mikko Koskinen. I'd imagine a better option than Stuart Skinner for sure. So we'll see if anything comes of this. At the time I'm recording this video, I haven't seen anything on a team claiming Aaron Dell. Maybe by the time this video is up, somebody has. But yeah, like I said, I would be very shocked if Edmonton doesn't. Moving along now to the next comment. This one comes from Zach Blevins, who says Tony DeAngelo is on the taxi squad for most of the season. If you guys didn't know, Tony DeAngelo was actually a healthy scratch in the Rangers game last night against the Islanders. That being said though, there's no way Tony DeAngelo spends most of the season on the taxi squad. He's most likely going to be back in the Rangers lineup for next game. The Rangers making DeAngelo a healthy scratch, I feel like it was just them kind of sending a message to Tony DeAngelo. He played awful in the first game against the Islanders. He also took a penalty in that game that he was not happy about, said something to the ref and then slammed the door to the penalty box, and he got an unsportsmanlike for that. So I feel like the scratch was kind of just punishment for that, and the Rangers saying that they're not going to tolerate that stuff. Although Tony DeAngelo is pretty bad defensively, he is one of the best offensive defensemen in the National Hockey League, so I'd imagine he's not going to spend most of the season on the taxi squad. This next comment comes from Matt Craig, who says, anything on the wings? Mantha invisible, Zadina looking like a stud. So pretty much I'm guessing you just want me to give you my thoughts on the wings through 2 games. Well, there isn't really a whole lot to say about the first game. It was a dud by Detroit. They could not get anything going offensively. Like I said earlier in the video, the score probably would have been pretty out of hand if it weren't for Thomas Greiss playing amazing. The second game though, definitely a lot better. Detroit picks up a 4-2 win against a very good Carolina team. I'm not going to get my hopes up because I made that mistake at the start of last season when Detroit started 2-0, but I definitely liked what I saw last night. Like you said, Zadina looked like a stud. I think his forechecking and his aggressiveness is on another level this season from what it was last season, and that's going to put him in positions to score a lot more goals and pick up a lot more points, forcing turnovers and stuff. That's actually how Zadina set up Detroit's first goal of the game. He picked a Carolina defender's pocket behind the net, sent it out front to Bobby Ryan, who buried it, and he also set up the game winner with a nice pass out front to Robbie Fabry. So I really loved what I saw from Zadina last night. It was nice to see Larkin net a couple of goals, although one was pretty fluky. It went in off of Vincent Trocheck, I believe, and then the other was an empty netter, but still, it's nice for him to see the puck go in the net early in the season. The goaltending looks fantastic. Both Greiss and Bernier played unreal. One of the negatives, though, definitely would have to be Anthony Mantha, who just doesn't look like himself. He doesn't have that pep in his step that he did last season. I don't know what the reason for that is. Is he just still, trying to knock off some rust? Is there like a lingering injury or something? Or is he just not in the best of shape? Hopefully it's not that. I'm obviously not going to worry yet with it only being 2 games, but Mantha definitely doesn't look too good. Moving on now to the next comment. Knew I was going to get this comment at least a couple of times. From Wild Fan Hockey, what are your thoughts on Kirill Kaprizov? Through 2 games for the Wild, again, it's very, very early in the season, a very small sample size, but Kirill Kaprizov looks just as advertised. In his NHL debut, he picked up a couple of assists in regulation, and then of course scored the overtime winner. I watched pretty much all of his NHL debut, didn't watch near as much of the second game because there were a lot of games going on at that time, but I did catch in overtime him setting out Marcus Johansson for the game winner, so he picked up another point in game 2. Heading into the season, I would say Kaprizov was probably the favorite to win the Calder, and through the first couple of games, it remains that way. He's looked great. I'm really happy for Wild fans. They waited a long time for Kaprizov to come over from the KHL, and he looks like exactly the type of player that this team needed. This next comment comes from Emerson, who says, is Jimmy Vesey an NHL caliber player, especially a second line winger like he has been playing? I do definitely think Jimmy Vesey is an NHL caliber player, and you can pretty much put anyone on a line with John Tavares and William Nylander and they'd look pretty good. I think Vesey has been doing just fine on that line. In my opinion, his skill set and the way he plays really complements John Tavares and William Nylander as well. So yeah, again, like I said, I definitely think Jimmy Vesey is an NHL caliber player, and I'd say he's been just fine on the Leafs second line. line so far. Continuing on now, this next comment comes from Shampoo, who says, will Tristan Jarry have a similar year to the one that Matt Murray had last season? Again, way too early to draw any conclusions, but Tristan Jarry has not looked very good. He's 0-2 with a 727 save percentage and a 7.57 goals against average. Now, the Penguins certainly didn't play their best hockey in front of him, but you definitely need Tristan Jarry to be better than that. The Penguins were actually able to pick up their first win of the season in a shootout earlier today against the Washington Capitals. Casey DeSmith was actually in net and got them the win, so it'll be interesting to see who they decide to start next game. There definitely is a real possibility we could see Tristan Jarry have a year similar to the one Matt Murray had last season, and then maybe Casey DeSmith comes in and takes over as the starting goaltender. The Penguins' goaltending situation is definitely something that's going to be interesting to follow throughout the season. Next up, we have another question about goaltending from the official Young Ho Ko YouTube channel. Who is the clear-cut starter in New York? Shesterkin let in 4 goals versus New York Islanders Thursday night, and Georgiev had a shutout last night versus the same team. Honestly, I think Shesterkin is, still the Rangers' starting goaltender. It's not like they played well in front of Shesterkin in their first game. They literally didn't score a goal. Georgiev is a great goaltender. If this keeps up, if Shesterkin struggles and Georgiev keeps playing well, then yeah, he could take over as the team's starting goaltender, but I'm a big believer in Shesterkin. I think he probably winds up playing like 60% of the Rangers games, and then Georgiev gets like 40%, or maybe it's like 55 to 45%, something like that. And now for the final comment of the video, this one comes from Nolan, who says, does Max Comtois reach 20 goals? As a Ducks fan, please let this happen. We need scoring help more than Edmonton needs consistent goaltending. That is definitely true. When I was doing my division predictions, when talking about the Ducks, that was my concern, who was going to score the goals. They have a great goaltender in John Gibson. I think their blue line is solid. It's just, who's going to provide the offense. So although the Ducks lost their first 2 games to the Golden Knights, it is really nice to see somebody like Max Comtois with 3 goals already. I'm a big fan of his. Heading into last season, I actually made a bold predictions video, and I said that I think Max Comtois could be a dark horse for the Calder Trophy. Obviously that didn't happen. He only wound up playing 29 games and put up 11 points. If he keeps producing, he's going to be a full-time member of the Ducks this season 100%. Can he reach 20 goals? I think so, especially if he plays in every game. I mean, he's already got 3, he only has to score 17 more. If he can do that, that would be huge for the Ducks, because this is a team that needs all the offense that they can get. So that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. Like I said at the start, if you guys want me to do more videos like this throughout the season, just be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. As always, be sure to leave the video a like if you enjoyed. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this is your first time on the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all in the next video.